Hello, everybody. Last minute movies here. Today we're going to be talking about The Emperor's New Groove. I guess the film that shaped Igor's childhood, as he likes to.
I actually remember that film as kind of almost as long as I remember myself, which is really weird. It's like one of those cartoons I saw when I was like 2-3 months old, and then I just played it on repeat because we had a cassette, and I just kept playing it because I really liked it. So I remember just like watching it with no cognition of what's happening on screen at all, and it was just amazing. And then as I was growing up, it was becoming better and better, and I was understanding more and more details. So it just kind of now sits in my heart and mind. I love that movie so much. And yeah, just like Little Russian childhood was a little less disturbing because of that cartoon. It was awesome.
It helped you get through wrestling bears.
Among other things, yeah. Yeah, we had to wrestle bears on the way to school
Nice.
in order to ride them to school, because, that's how you traverse the landscape. That's besides the point. Yeah, like, that movie is just so controversial. It's like, again, I feel like our channel is kind of has a little niche for old cartoons, late 90s, early 2000s.
That's completely Igor's fault.
Here's a quick recap. Basically, Emperor Cusco is this spoiled-ass brat who is a royalty and super detached, makes his entire castle basically patronize him, sing songs to him, makes the guards dance for him. He basically hates...
Don't interrupt his groove!
Exactly! He throws people out the windows when they interrupt his groove.
No! You threw off my groove!
I'm sorry, but you've thrown off the Emperor's groove.
He's a piece of shit. We don't like him at all. He invites this man Pacha to his palace, who made a really long way from his tiny village on the top of a hill, asking which side looks best to find a way to place a swimming pool for the Cuscotopia, which his like ultimate summer getaway he's gonna build on that hill and destroy his village entirely. And he's just telling him that nonchalantly the day before destroying it, supposedly. And yeah, it's fucked up. And Pacha is this other main character, basically, who kind of has to live with it now, and he tells him to leave, and Pacha leaves, and this lady Isma and Kronk decide to fucking poison him because they want to take over the control of the kingdom. They fuck up the poisoning the same night of the same day. Instead of him dying, he gets turned into a llama, at which point Isma tells Kronk to go dump the body. Kronk doesn't dump the body. In fact, he loses the body of a llama that is unconscious, and it goes onto the cart of all people is Pacha. This movie is just full of these weird fucking coincidences, but we just need to roll with it. That's how the style is, and that's how it's formed. But yeah, so Cusco wakes up in the village, and he's like, "Who are you, fucking peasant?" And Pacha is like, "Are you emperor?" He's like, "Well, what do I think I am? I am a llama!" And he's really upset. He's like, "I'm gonna make my way back to the palace by myself. I'll tell them what's happening." So Cusco and Pacha yell at each other. Cusco ends up taking off and just going into the fucking jungle, nearly dies there, gets killed by jaguars and one amazing looking squirrel. And Pacha goes to save his ass, and then they both nearly die several times. They're super toxic to each other. Pacha is just like constantly motivated by this idea that maybe he'll be able to not only save Cusco's life, but also change his mind about maybe not destroying the village, which is a stretch. And then there's this amazing moment where they're crossing a bridge because he's now helping him get back to the palace. They're crossing the bridge, and the bridge snaps, and they get stuck above this fucking gator pit. So basically, they're forced to work together to feel better and survive. At which point they get to the top, and Cusco has his first breakthrough when he does a first act of kindness that is not directed towards him. He's saving Pacha from falling off a cliff. Moving on, and this is where the story kind of just takes really weird turns. They go to grab food, and Isma and Kronk are there because apparently they found out that Kronk didn't actually kill Cusco, and Cusco might be alive. So Isma, being the new empress, takes Kronk and goes like, "We need to find him! We need to kill him! We need to kill him right this time!" So they're out there looking for
That's
him.
a disturbingly good replica of her voice.
Thank you. I take pride in that. But
You should be her for Halloween.
No, I will probably be Kronk. I need to just get my shoulders jacked a little more, but that's not the point.
You need to get your drummer arms back, Igor.
Yeah, gotta play that metal again. So then there's just this really weird scene, kind of like sequence in the fucking restaurant where they all stop and they're all there and they get nearly caught, and Cusco and Pacha end up separating after that. Cusco is having a moment just like all alone. Like Pacha said, there will one day come a day where you will be all alone and you will have nowhere else to blame but yourself. And that's what happens to Cusco. He's all alone. He's trying to be a llama. He hates the taste of grass. And then he comes back to Pacha and he's like, I'm a piece of shit. I'm sorry. I want to be a better version of myself. You know, take me somewhere. And he's like, he takes him home to his village. And that's where Kronk and Yzma are as well, because that's like the last place they didn't check. So Pacha communicates with his wife and kids and basically the whole village, because he's the head of the village apparently, and they kick their ass. After Pacha and Cusco escape from the village, collectively the village basically turns Yzma into a feathery honey smashed piñata, and she gets her ass kicked. And Kronk makes friends with everyone in the village, so that's nice. And after a really...
I can't believe that's an actual fucking sentence we have to say.
Yeah. And then after a really strange montage that is basically a music montage that Disney kind of bipolarly threw in there, they make it back to the palace, and then they fight with each other. The fucking guards get summoned, turn into a bunch of animals. And because that's like the theme in the movie, they try to find the last little what do you call those things? Little glass vials.
Vials.
They're trying to find the
like,
last vial that's gonna turn Cusco back into the human. And the Emperor, he's like, I'm alive, bitches. Everyone's just like, oh my god, this piece of shit is back. But that's besides the point. In the end of the day, Yzma gets turned into a small kitten. Kronk ends up smashing her into the window. Cusco is having a full turnaround. He chooses to lose the vial and save Pacha's life instead, because he's now a good person and good llama. And happy end. He is not going to build a Cuscotopia. He's not going to destroy his village because now they're friends. Cusco is no longer a piece of shit. Pacha still has a great heart. Yzma is still Yzma, and Kronk is still Kronk. What a nice movie. A fucking roller coaster that is just so weird in so many ways.
Pull the lever, Kronk. Wrong lever!
Huh?
Why do we even have that lever? Get out of my way.
Okay, let's talk about the things that were actually like good in this movie. Okay? So, the fucking animation is amazing. It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some of the best animated anything I've ever seen from Disney.
Yep.
It's the colors, the characters, the animations for the characters. They were so lively. You know, they were full of life.
Mm-hmm.
It was just it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. The colors were amazing, like especially like in the forests as well.
Yep, the jungle.
You know, like you had the jungles, you had purples, you had greens, you had like a full idea of what the environment was like. Even the animals themselves, where you got to see like alligators, you got to see chipmunks.
The tiny little fly
jaguars.
gets eaten alive by the fucking spider.
Yeah, by the fucking spider. Yeah.
What? Okay, that was the freakiest thing I've ever seen.
What was her name? Yzma.
Yep.
I think that's how you pronounce. Yeah, Yzma. She was just amazingly animated.
Yep.
Like, just so much creativity. Like, she was so old and disgusting, terrifying, just wrinkly. Like that one point where they zoomed in on her mouth and you saw like the little fucking thing in like the
that
piece
whole
of food
character
in her
introduction.
teeth.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
that was disgusting.
Yep.
Like the animation, in my opinion, helped breathe. Like, I know obviously because like without the animation it would just be a fucking screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
But I really feel like the animation helped this movie like show off their characters to like the best extent that it possibly could. It's almost like how the comedy in Hot Fuzz, we just got done recording Hot Fuzz. It's almost like how the comedy in Hot Fuzz or like helped with the characters in their setting and all that kind
Facts.
of stuff. Like through the screenplay, like how the writing helped Hot Fuzz show off their characters. I feel like the animation did that for this film. Actually.
Word. And I
because personally, script wise, there's not, in my opinion, there's not too much to be. In my opinion, there's not too much to help out the characters.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you look at it from a script perspective, some of the character work is kind of weak.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the animation and especially and the jokes is what really helped me.
Yeah.
Is what really sold me on these
tones,
characters.
the tones, really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, I agree with you, actually. Like, you know, objectively thinking, detaching my whole childhood self from it, I do think that, you know, the character work is a bit of a mishmash, even though, like, they're great and the character relationships are amazing, but the character work itself is not necessarily perfect. And also, you know, it is a stylistic mishmash in regards to, like, what the movie is gonna do next. So, yeah, like, I see where you're coming from. But I gotta say, like, animation just makes it that much more interesting, is the fact that the backgrounds are, I think they were hand-painted. They're just, like, so simple tones. Because if you think about it, right, like any shot of the film you look at, you have your characters that are animated so well and, you know, voice acting and everything. But all the backgrounds, including, like, the palace and the jungle and the village, they look really plain. And there's barely anything on those little kind of, like, background palettes of colors. It's almost like SpongeBob to me. Like, it's very minimal just to kind of keep it alive, just enough for you to focus on the characters. And it's just really nice that the animation just plays out so well, even though not much detail is being put into it. If anything, it kind of triggers the imagination more, at least. But I don't know. Yeah.
So that's one good thing about this film is the animation. I like the characters. So, like, as Igor and I were just saying, the writing and like the motivations for the characters are kind of weak, but they make up for that in their personalities and how, like, cartoonish and animated they are. Especially Kronk.
Like, he's hands down my favorite prototype.
Yeah, like Kronk, like this movie came out in, like, 2000. This movie came out when I was born, right? Mm-hmm. And fucking, like, Kronk in 2021, 21 years later, he's like an internet meme, and people are still, like, memeing and making jokes about it. Like the whole no, he's got a point, or it's all coming together. Like those two memes right there, they're, like, internet famous.
It's the peasant who I saw leaving the city who disappeared into the crowd with Cusco in the back of his cart. He must have taken him back to his village, so if we find the village, we find him, and if we find him, we find Cusco. Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Like,
what about...
Like, I saw those memes so many times last year because of shit like the election and, you know, the COVID and just all the fuckery that was happening last year. Like, it's so... It just goes to show, like, not only with the voice acting, we'll get to that soon, but just, like, the writing of their personalities, like, really stood to the test of time for sure. Mm-hmm. Because it's still relevant, people are still making jokes about it, and it's been, like, 21 years. So I think, you know, I commend them for making the character work very strong. I mean, honestly, like, Kronk and Yzma are the best characters in this movie. They're by far the most entertaining. They're the funniest.
They're cool.
Like,
they're cool. I love them.
We gotta admit that. In my opinion.
No. You see, I totally agree with that, and I think that Yzma is like the Cruella we never got. In that sense, not that I have no problem with Cruella.
Oh my god,
Cruella
she
is
actually
amazing.
looks like Cruella.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, Cruella is great. In the OG cartoon, she was terrifying, and then the reboot is really nice. They took a really nice angle on it. But I think Yzma
it's worse because she wore the coats of the dogs.
Yeah, but she didn't actually kill them. But that's not spoiled that one. The thing is,
everyone's seen that movie. Yeah,
I hope they did. But yeah, I just feel like Yzma is this amazing character prototype that could have been developed a lot more.
Yzma!
What?
Oh!
This had better be good.
Not in the movie, but, like, elsewhere. Same as Kronk, as... We need more Pachas in our lives and in our movies. We need more Yzmas. We need more Kronks. And we have too many Cuscos.
See, the thing is that, like, I feel like the character work is weak for everyone but Kronk.
Really?
I feel like Kronk is perfect, though. Yeah, I feel Kronk is perfect the way he is.
He's just like...
Like, I think it's...
Yeah, what about him?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like, obviously you can give him character work and all that kind of stuff, and I guess if you want to talk about his arc, it's about the fact that he was actually a good person.
Yeah.
But he had to work for this, like, evil woman.
And do you want to know something else? I've never liked your spinach puffs. Never!
That's it. She's going down. Now, remember, guys. From above, the wicked shall receive their just reward. That'll work.
You know, not everything, in my opinion, has to be, like, super I mean, you obviously want to make it good, right? You don't want to make bad films.
Yeah.
But I feel like you can also have fun, and I feel like this film was almost experimental in a way, and if that's the case, then I think he's fine.
You know, I gotta say that, like...
Especially since he's the most memorable part of the film, you know?
Yeah. I gotta say that, like, the film has a tendency, and I think it plays into the style a lot in the end of the day, if you, like, squint just right, where shit just comes out of nowhere. And if you look at it, like, you know, the whole point where Cusco turns into a llama, it happened because of Kronk. He fucking mismatched the little...
Yeah, he fucked it up.
And, you know, then you keep going, things like them falling into the waterfall. All of that is just motivated not by any kind of action, and it's not being set up either. It just kind of happens to them as they go along.
Don't tell me. We're about to go over a huge waterfall.
Yep,
Sharp rocks at the bottom?
most likely.
Bring it on.
And...
Yeah, so...
Yeah, like, and then the bridge, you know, like, all of these moments, none of them are necessarily set up. They just kind of happen to the characters, which is not something that your traditional narrative will have. You know, it will have some kind of foreshadowing prior. It's going to have some kind of setup, just like, oh, Cusco is bad at crossing bridges, like, you know, that type of shit. But, you know, that's not what they ended up doing. And I don't know if that's the result of the shit show that, you know, made this piece, or if it was done with deliberation. I like to think it was done on purpose, because it definitely adds the style and it kind of commits to it in a way, which is nice. Yeah, I don't know. Those things
like,
kind of, they always been, ever since my early childhood, they've been spring-loading my imagination, and I would always just try to fill in the blanks just because it's that kind of movie for me. I don't think I have any other movie in my life that makes me feel that way. Like, a few of them that are genuinely not that good, I don't care that much. But for some reason, that one is just, like, in my heart in that regard. So I'm going to be defending it to the end.
Yeah. So number 3 thing that I think that this film did good. I liked, I said animation, I said the characters. I guess this more has to do with the writing, and this is actually going back to, like, character work and Kronk. And with, what is it, Paca, right? It's Paca?
Kronk
Pacha,
and... Oh, Pacha, yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of feel with, like I personally don't think their characters really changed too much. I don't think they really had much.
Well, Pacha doesn't change at all. He's like a man of pure heart the whole time, and he follows his own principles.
And people might think that that's, like, a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's entirely a bad thing. Like, it
I
depends.
think it's a great thing.
I guess. I think on some level, it's like you always want your characters to be set up so that they can learn and all of that. But at the same time, I do think I would. So what I call them is, I call them flat characters in a way, but they help other characters, like, grow because of that. So, like, for example, there's this YouTuber named Totally Not Mark, and he does, like, a lot of Dragon Ball anime content and all that. And he made a video about Goku, and he talked about Goku being a flat character arc. And because he's so one note and he's the same, he helps other characters like Vegeta and Piccolo and all of that evolve and so that they can have their character arcs. Now, I don't agree with this. I actually don't think Goku's a flat character at all. I think that he has a character arc, and he goes through trials and tribulations and changes and all that. So I disagree with him on that. But that notion of having a flat character to help build on other characters, I actually think is a real thing.
Yeah.
And I think you see that here with Emperor's New Groove with Pacha and Cusco. Like, I feel like Pacha, right?
Yeah. No, that's it.
How the fuck do you... Pacha, yeah. With Pacha, where he just is kind of one note and very pure-hearted, and he wants to see the good in everyone, and he stays the same like that.
Yeah.
But it helps... But because he's so good and he's so one note and he's such a good person, it helps Kuzco change as a person. And Kuzco being the main character. I'm sorry with these names. They're
you're
hard.
good.
But,
no, those are
but
not
with,
usual names.
I'm usually not bad with names. This is coming from someone who's named Ayun, but whatever. But Kuzco is the main character, and of course he's the one that changes because he's like this selfish, emperor, and he doesn't care about anyone. And then, seeing the courtesy that Pacha gave him and all that kind of stuff, he starts to change as a person. And then when it comes down to like towards the end, we'll get into this as we kind of describe the plot a little bit, but like. He chooses to save Pacha instead of going for the serum that could turn him back to human.
Yeah,
and all that kind of stuff.
But that's like
I think it.
I don't think that's the moment of change though. I think that moment there, that's like to check mark. The fact that he's now like that. I think the change happens before that, but that's there just to kind of manifest that change even more because it's like the final battle of sorts. Like I think that just makes perfect sense to me. Even though he is a prick, the whole movie he's just a piece of shit. Like Kuzco is a piece of shit, like big times.
Yeah, he's not.
But I think the
he orders someone to be chucked off his fucking castle.
No, yeah, I mean
that poor old man. He interrupted the groove.
Yeah, it's
the whole Hot Fuzz comparison.
Yeah.
I get what you're going at because it's like the whole buddy kind of thing. It's a comedy genre. I would say that Kuzco and Paca, I feel like they're more extreme cases of their Pacha. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Or
the
Paca,
people who actually like this movie will hate you.
Whatever the fuck it is, I'm gonna switch around. Well, come at me, bro. I don't give a fuck. But I'll just say Pacha from now on. It's
Sounds
Pacha,
good.
Okay. All right, so Pacha here, I feel like, and Kuzco, I feel like they're more extreme, like, characters.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I feel like they're more extreme versions of what said characters, like, represent than in Hot Fuzz. I feel like with Hot Fuzz, it was a bit more, like, complex in a way, in my opinion. So yeah, but I can understand the comparison that you're making with that. So number 4 thing, let me see. Is there anything else I liked about this film?
Wow.
Oh yeah, actually, this is what I really liked about this film. So, what I really liked about this film. So obviously, Emperor's New Groove, Emperor's New Clothes, right?
Oh.
Now, if you've ever seen, yeah, I know, right? If you've ever, did you just pick this up for the first time?
No. I had I understood.
Okay.
Just,
I was like, how could you
I want to hear you make that connection.
Okay, yeah. So the Emperor's New Clothes it's like a short story by Hans Christian Andersen, and it talks about like this emperor who gets tricked into like buying a suit that's made from a fabric that only like smart people can see or something like that.
No, it's an invisible fabric that is made of gold.
Yeah, it's like this or gold or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And the punchline, it's like, oh, he's actually just naked. There's no fabric at all.
Yeah.
Right? And the emperor and his advisors, they all pretend, and his followers, they all pretend that you're wearing this amazing clothing and all that kind of stuff, and the fabric is so beautiful. But then at this event, this child is like, dude, you're walking around naked. Like, what's wrong with you? And I feel like it's a really cool yeah, I love that story. But I feel like it's cool because like the moral of that story is to kind of show that like people are willing to like put on this whole song and dance, then really like admit that they made a mistake or that there's anything wrong because of their ego. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing that's going on with Kuzco throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
So you just replace it with like talking llamas and shit like that. But for the majority of the film, he's this really selfish brat, honestly, because he's still a fucking kid. He's a teenager. He's 18 years old. He's basically still a teenager. But like he's this guy who goes around, he thinks he's the best, everything's perfect. Everything I do is just all that kind of shit. I can even throw old men off of my fucking,
window,
palace and shit like palace window and shit like that. And it takes someone like Pacha in order to come to him and, take the wool out of his eyes, literally.
Yep.
and be like, bro, you're fucking naked, okay? Like, you're a llama, see, no one cares.
You're also a piece of shit. Yeah, exactly.
And you're a very selfish person, and you're the same, and we're the same person, and all that kind of stuff. What makes you special is not your title. What makes you special is your actions. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I feel like we just talked about a film that was like that. Like, what makes you special is about your actions, not what you do. Did we just talk about a film about...
Can't you deduct that
Did we
moral
just
out
talk
of
about
majority
this?
of movies that we talked about?
Yeah, but I literally feel like we just talked about it on one of our podcasts.
Me too.
I don't know. If you know the podcast, comment down in the comments and shit. Oh, that's right. I think it was How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh,
right?
yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's not what you are, it's the things you do. Yeah, and...
Oh, no. Sorry. It's Iron Giant. There we go. That's what it was.
Fuck it. Okay, yeah. That was...
Sorry.
confusing as
I
shit.
mean, How to Train Your Dragon has to do with that, because I guess, like...
Well, it has the whole bit to it, too, with the, Hiccup wanting to do the right thing the whole time, nonstop.
Exactly. Yeah. But the Iron Giant's really where that is. So we were just talking about that.
But you're totally right about the new clothes comparison, because I think, like, Cusco literally exists in a palace where every single person's entire existence, from the guards to the singer guy to the cooks, all just, like, based around patronizing the shit out of him as an emperor. And, like, yeah, that's Emperor's New Clothes for you, like, hands down. And it's only because he's an emperor, he was born into it. And that's, like, a problem with royalty as well. Detachment.
Yeah, so people who say that, like, oh, this film has nothing to do with that story, it actually does.
Yeah. No, it has everything to do with it.
I think, like, that's the deep, like, cool thing about this film. Like, when we talk about, like, so Igor and I, in about 10 minutes or something like that, I don't know, we usually go on, like, this tangent about the complexity or philosophy of a specific film.
Yep.
We're doing it earlier now just because we're talking about things that I liked in this film.
Yep.
But yeah, that's definitely, like, the deep, complex thing about this film that's really cool, is the comparison to the original story versus, like, the, I guess you would say, like, remake.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep, facts.
Yeah.
And I think, like, the story is not complex at all, but at the same time, there's so much shit in it that's happening, and, like, so many things you can follow. And for me personally, like, here, you talked about things you liked. I'm gonna just have a list of little moments that pop up out there that I just don't see happen in other movies enough. So, like, starting off is just the character dynamic, right? The character dynamic between Yzma and Kronk, and the fact that, like, the moment where Yzma is destroying his heads that are made of stone when she's frustrated about getting fired, there's nothing redeeming about Cusco at that time. We just saw him tell Pacha that he's gonna destroy his fucking village to build a Cuscotopia getaway place, right? We hate him just as much, and we associate with Yzma at that moment in time perfectly. And I don't know if I know any other movie that, can get its main protagonist to be the most annoying, most hatred person on the planet at that moment in time, and the antagonist being someone you actually kind of empathize with for that one moment. You understand that frustration. So that's the thing number one, just like that complete reversal that happens for that one moment of her bashing his heads with Kronk handing them over, and then she gets an evil plan and shit, so she's evil in the end. But so that's the thing number one. Then pretty much the entire character prototyping that's happening after that, like the whole poisoning situation and the Cusco's poison and...
Oh, right, the poison for Cusco, the poison chosen specially to kill Cusco's poison. That poison?
Yes, that poison.
Got you covered.
Wait, sorry, before that, the sequence of them going down into the fucking lab is perfect. Hands down. Like, it's a meme. Like, that whole movie is a giant meme factory, and it's one of those things. I just love that so much. Then, yeah, the evil plotting, the entire dinner time thing, like the whole time where he's turning into a llama while still communicating with them, and that little flower cactus thing behind Yzma that she pours the wine into that she was supposed to poison him with also turns into a llama. Like, that whole sequence is just so nice and imaginative, and I just can't think of other movies that have similar things happen to it. The movie has to have a really specific style, approach, and tone for this to actually work and pull that shit off like that. I don't know any other movie like that. Let's see. The entire sequence where Kronk is supposed to get rid of the body and he talks to those angels and ends up saving him. Fuck yeah. Following that, there's like, Pacha going into his house and meeting his wife for the first time. He's got 2 little kids and she's also pregnant. To me, that was actually a description of like a perfect family, and when I was little, I aspired to be like that. That was like, it's so deeply rooted in my mind. Just like, I love that dynamic. I love how they talk with each other. I love how they, they're excited to wait for him and everything. He's so nice and pure of heart, and so are they. And it just feels so nice.
His wife is definitely the dom of that relationship.
Bro,
right? She's definitely on top.
I'll sub that shit all the way. It's amazing. I don't care. Like, did you see her?
Wait.
And then there's this scene I just want to make. It's a perfect example. If I ever have to explain to like a filmmaking freshman, or like whoever's trying to learn to make movies or to write stories, what character dynamic is like, what the up, highs, and lows are, it's basically their entire interaction when Pacha is trying to make a fire, and then Cusco is like, it keeps extinguishing it, and tops it off with verbal insults and shit after he literally saved his life twice. So like, everything they say to each other has to do with a character dynamic. Everything they have to say to each other is revolving around their evolving relationships.
What? Wait, how can you be this way? All you care about is building your summer home and filling it with stuff for you.
Yeah, Doi, me. Everyone else in the kingdom gets...
And no other movie that I've seen that I can think of at the moment can... I mean, Atlantis did it. It was really close to it, where every interaction was a character dynamic. It's just in this movie, it's a lot more vivid because it's literally just the 2 of them the whole movie. Nobody else has an evolving relationship, which makes this that much more kind of visible, that much more... I don't want to say textured because it's not deep. It's not like super complicated. It's just nice and it flows. And that's what I love about it. Yeah, I mean, following that, the whole bridge sequence is amazing.
Working on it. Okay, here's the deal. Stretch out your neck, and I'll grab the rope.
How do I know you won't let me fall after you grab the rope?
You're just gonna have to trust me.
And now it's time to talk about what I don't like in this film.
All right, tell us.
All right, here we go. The biggest problem, I named 4 things that I like in this movie. And actually, there's a 5th thing I like in this movie. I really, really like how Pacha is like this father figure to Cusco, because the fact that we don't see Cusco's parents at all or anything like that. So we're just assumed, we have to assume that this guy has no parent. He doesn't really have anyone to help raise him and parent him and teach him, the rights and wrongs and all of that. And he's just this entitled, spoiled brat because he didn't really have anyone to teach him not to be like that. So he's more so a circumstance of his surroundings, more so than he is within himself in a way. But he has to learn how to take personal accountability in order to become a better person.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 5 thing I like. What I didn't like is that you have this deep thing like that. You have that deep story beat like that.
Yeah.
And the film is more about specific moments than it is about the story like that. Like, if you were to ask anyone about Emperor's New Groove, even me and Igor, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the memes. We're going to be like no, he has a point. Or, see, it's all coming together. Or we're going to talk about animation. Or we're going to talk about, like, how specific characters said funny things. Or how this character turned into a llama, or this character turned into an octopus, or this character turned into a cat, or a turtle, or a chipmunk or a squirrel that blew up a balloon, and the fourth wall breaks and shit like that. Like, we have all these specific moments that are like hilarious. But I feel like the story kind of just got left in the dust a little bit.
You're right. Oh, no, you're absolutely right.
Like,
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah.
There's no sense of structure
like
whatsoever.
And that, for me, is like a big problem. And especially, I guess what bothers me the most is that this is a Disney film.
Yeah.
And we've seen so many Disney films that are just like literally fucking like genius perfection and nothing can touch it. Like Beauty and the Beast is a fucking brilliant film.
It's decent.
Lion King is a brilliant film.
That's brilliant.
Like there's so many films that are so good, and I feel almost like disappointed because I'm like, I feel like they could have done better. And I understand because it's like from a production standpoint, so much shit happened.
Yeah.
And I understand, like, and here's the thing in filmmaking, if shit goes haywire in production, it just gets more expensive for you.
Or
you know
or
what I'm
progressively shittier. You're either losing quality or money, or both. Sometimes it's both.
You're losing both.
Star
it's
Wars.
Both. It's usually both.
Yeah,
exactly. But I feel like this film, I feel like Hot Fuzz in a way did it better because Hot Fuzz is remembered not only for its moments, but also like we had the opportunity to have like this really like deep conversation about like expectations and being yourself and learning how to appreciate what's around you or something like that. I feel like there's films that we've talked about like Inside Out, like animated films.
Absolutely.
Now we talked about like Inside Out and Soul, which are brilliant fucking films. They're hilarious, they're comedic, right? But Soul has this amazing film about enjoying what's life is about what you make of it, not having a purpose. Inside Out is about being in touch with your emotions is what and these experiences make you human. Not feeling anything at all doesn't make you human. I feel like those stories and those films have such deep things. So not only do we remember it for the deep story that it has, I keep saying deep.
Yep.
Not only do we remember it for the complex story that it has, but we also remember it for its moments as well, whereas Emperor's New Groove, we only remember it for its moments. Yeah.
Well,
and I feel like that's kind of the most disappointing aspect of this film in my opinion.
You're right. A lack of congruent arc that has a bigger message to it is definitely a miss for the film, and it would definitely work better if it had one. Right now, the only thing that really connects it is that Kuzco is a piece of shit, and Pacha is going to lose his home, and then in the end, Pacha doesn't, and Kuzco becomes a better person, more of a people's person. But that's literally all there is to it. And, I mean, I guess the whole idea of Kuzco needs to be a person again, but, like, we don't necessarily empathize with it the whole time.
Yeah.
But
the plot is just thrown away for moments that are fun. And don't get me wrong, the moments that are funny, like the part where they're back at her, Yzma's laboratory, and then they're like, where is it? And she's like, are you looking for this? And then they're like, how did you get here before us? And she's like, how did we do that? And then Kuzco, and not Kuzco.
Kronk fucking pulls down the little
Kronk
thing.
is like, yeah, and he's like, I have no idea. Like, that's fucking hilarious because it's just going to show that, like, this is just, like, it's absurdity and it's self-aware that it's absurd because it's, like, it's making fun of, like, the conventional kind of, like, action adventure stories. And that's all great, but I feel like the best kind of comedies are the comedies that are not only, like, really good, but they're self-aware of the genre.
Yeah, totally.
Like Hot Fuzz.
Totally.
Hot Fuzz is self-aware of the action buddy cop genre, but it's also a really good action buddy cop film. You know
but
what
I
I'm
gotta
saying?
say that, like, I think the difference that you're describing is the lack of deliberation, right? Like, after going through film school, I think I started to see Emperor's New Groove story very differently, just because I'm thinking of where those different, like, moments are coming from. And I realized that, with the shit show that was the production of that movie, a lot of moments are basically script doctored. In the end of the day, they had a script that, was many different things mushed together, and they needed to find a way to make them all work, and they made them all work by, like, turning all of these tiny moments into their own little things. Because that's the only way.
It definitely feels like a Frankenstein monster.
Exactly. And, like, I mean, it has one music sequence. It has that one moment with Kronk pulling the thing where, like, the screenwriters literally didn't know what else to put there. That felt like it. It's a funny gag. It's just, you also understand that it doesn't have the overall arc because it wasn't made that way to be so deliberate because of the amounts of changes the film went through in production.
And that's just, like, the fact that, like, there's this almost when I finished watched it, I almost felt like this empty feeling, like I was missing something. I was like, I feel like I missed, it feels like the film wasn't, like, finished yet. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and I guess that's the thing, like, even with Disney films that aren't my favorite that I've watched before, at least I feel like I'm like, okay, well, the story, like, that's the story that they wanted to tell, Yeah. But with this one, it felt It felt like a Snyder film.
Oh my god! No, don't put it
We're
there.
Not, and Snyder films are worse, but I'm just saying that feeling of like unfinished.
Well,
is kind of what I felt about it. Not that it's as bad as those as like Batman vs Superman or Justice League and all of that, but it just felt kind of unfinished.
You're right. You're right. And honestly, I think you slamming it actually refreshed my mind a lot on the matter, because I was like, I come in just loving this. I'm biased, but
the ball rider.
I gotta say though, there is one big redeeming quality this film has that is kind of like my closing statement at this point, and I think and here's what I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you why I think this film has to be mentioned on this podcast. Because even though it's not perfect, it's not done with deliberation, it's been butchered and script doctored together back, and it has its own awesome moments, and it has a style and everything, and it plays out well, and it made a lot of people's childhoods as well as my own. But what it does so well is that by hyper-concentrating on Pacha's and Cusco's relationship, it's teaching us one really important lesson in life, which is how to deal with assholes. And let me elaborate on that. So like,
you don't know.
let's say at some point in your life there is an asshole you're supposed to interact with. You have no choice. It has to be done. And there has to be a way to turn them around. And what, Pacha's character is encapsulating everything that is good about this approach, just like, Kronk has the two angels, good and bad. Pacha is all that's good, and Cusco is all that's bad. Cusco is self-centered as fuck. We don't know how to deal with him.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
And Pacha has the one thing that Angel had in Hot Fuzz and many other characters in many other movies too, which is just he is inherently a good person. He is patient, and even though Cusco is a piece of shit, and even though if Cusco dies, his village gets to stay intact, he chooses to go and save that individual because he has that option. So, not only it's a really good, simple as shit of an example of character development and choices and all that stuff, and I'm going to make an essay about that separately just because of how nicely it illustrates these things, but it teaches us how to approach these situations in real life, how to be patient with people that are not self-aware enough, and the potential, and how rewarding it can be to share your own awareness and your own goodness of your own heart if you have it, how to share it with others and how it can affect them. Because in the end of the day, that happens with Cusco too. And if you are the type of person like Cusco, if you are self-centered, you don't have to be a piece of shit. You can just be self-centered, right? It also, this movie allows you to kind of gaze into how to take it, how to properly, do it, and how to avoid all the bullshit that Cusco went through, all the trials and tribulations of facing his own bullshit, right? You have to be a good person in the end of the day, and you have to be patient, and you have to, if you are trying to change someone from being a total asshole, and it should not be your toxic boyfriend. You should dump your toxic boyfriend. That is not what I'm talking about. But if you have a friend or a family member who is...
Listen to us, ladies. Drop them.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice guy. The nice guys might finish last, but I tell you, they're good people to finish with.
Good point. I'm not gonna lie. It was. I thought it was gonna be cringy, but you made a really good point. But yeah, if you're talking to an asshole or have to work with someone who's an asshole, it's just really good to show patience and, being able to make your heart bigger than that person's heart is small, if that makes any sense. And it's just the dynamic between them, it will eventually do something good. And it's always better to be the type of person that is Pacha, even though he has to take blows sometimes. It's always better to be him than being Cusco, because Cusco is a destructive piece of shit.
And let me just say, I don't hate this movie. I really don't hate this movie. There's so many other films that, like this film does not. When I hate a film, you'll see me get angry. So
yep.
But I'm not getting angry about this. I think there's flaws about this movie, but I actually think that this is a very enduring film. Mm-hmm. It's very enduring. I don't walk away with it from a bad taste in my mouth. I walk away from it feeling like, oh, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
These specific moments were good. And I guess the thing I like most about this movie is the fact that it's just unapologetically itself. Yep. And it's such a cool thing for us filmmakers, because it's really make whatever you want to make. Don't let anyone ever tell you you can't make this specific genre. You can't have this joke in your screenplay. You can't do this. just fuck it, throw it in
Yeah.
there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It can work. Art is subjective.
Mm-hmm.
What someone thinks isn't good is good to somebody
Yep.
else. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I think there's far worse films that we've covered in this topic, whether it be last minute movies or the watch party. Like I think
Watch parties have
Godzilla
seen
versus
some
Kong-
shit.
Yeah, I think I think Snyder Cut was compared to Snyder Cut, this film is like
A fucking
There Will Be
Oscar-worthy
Blood,
masterpiece.
Whiplash, yeah, masterpiece. I think it's better than Godzilla versus Kong. I think this film is better than Kingsman. I think it's better than you know. I think this film is better than a lot of films that we've seen on this podcast, but you know, it does have some problems, but that's okay because
All movies do.
No film is
Exactly.
well, except Spider-Verse.
We will talk about that more, but I want to see that essay come out, Ali. I want to see that essay.
It's gonna come out. It's coming out.
But yeah, no, that's cool. And I think like the other inherent value of this film is that like it's just something that people don't really talk about when they talk about kids movies, is that it's for kids.
Yeah.
Right? Like when Inside Out and things of that nature, movies like that, they're modeled for kids and their parents and like just regular adults as well that don't have children.
Rated E for everyone.
Yeah, but I think Cusco and Emperor's New Groove is just like when a child watches it and is introduced to all of these character prototypes. They're very simple, and even a 5 or a 6-year-old can walk away from it actually having some kind of shift in their mind about what is good and what isn't, and how not to behave yourself in a certain times.
Yeah, it's a good way to introduce these kind of concepts.
Yep.
So if you have like a young I'm fucking 21 years old, so I don't know dick about parenting, but like I feel like this would be a good way to introduce your kid into some of these. Like,
and it's like
ideas.
and just thinking about that again, right? The value it has for child development in that sense. If you think about like I'm thinking of cartoons like Teen Titans, that not the OG stuff, but the stuff that is like currently playing on TV. The incentive for a lot of those
Teen Titans Go.
like a lot of the modern day shows, especially on like on all of those channels, has more to do with just distracting the child from not being annoying to their parents and just sitting there
actually teaching them
and like blowing shit up on their face to get them excited because like rapid pictures happening and
oh yeah, we had it good, man. We had some of the best animated films come out, and the best animated shows came out during our time. We had it good.
When we were there, when we were little, people who would make those cartoons actually would think about how to put good morality into our heads, not just distract us.
For example, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yo! On this note, this was Last Minute Movies. My name is Igor.
Yes.
That right there is Ali.
My name is Ali. I thought it was going to be that thing where you're like, this is Igor, and then I'm like, I'm Ali. Never mind. All right.
We're signing out.